So once we rendered out all these variations of our setup, all those individual wedges, what I'd like to do next is generate kind of an overview of all those individual variations. So basically I want to create a mosaic of those individual renders. When we have a look at my output folder, what I've done here is I rendered out the first 2401 individual permutations and just open this up here in Photoshop, which looks like this. So I'll have an image which is I think 960 by 960 pixels and which has got an alpha channel and it's an EXR. So pretty standard until now. So what I want to do now is take advantage of some of the unique features and tools that PDG and TOPS brings with it and automate that image processing task. So let's drop down a TopNet in here, dive in there. And the first thing I want to do is load up all those files and make them available for TOPS. And I'm going to do that with a file pattern top here, which just loads up every file in a certain directory to be used in TOPS. So let's just select our render directory here, which is this here. And I'm just going to select any random file, hit accept, and then just swap out the file name here and just exchange that with an asterisk like this. So when we hit Shift and V to cook this, we can see we're loading up this 2401 files. Next, what I want to do before I generate this mosaic, I want to resize my individual image so they put a bit less stress on my whole processor and network when I finally combine them to form a mosaic, and also I don't need them in the resolution. So let's drop down an image magic node. And for that to work properly, what you currently have to do at this state is you have to manually install image magic. And I'll talk a bit about this in an upcoming tutorial as well, but basically what you want to do is download image magic, install it, and make sure you also with it install FFmpeg that ships within the installer for ImageMagick. So if that is correctly installed, you can use this ImageMagick top here, which is the main image processing node for TOPS. So let's wire this in here and set it to convert. And I don't want to convert it to a JPEG, but I want to keep it as an EXR. So let's switch this file extension here, but check the resampling tab here. And I want to resample it to a width to 256 by 256 pixels. So just really tiny, a thumbnail basically. Also in here in the comments section, I want to check ImageMagick command. And this is the default parameters with which ImageMagick gets started by TOPS. And I just want to remove this background black here. So in order to preserve the alpha channel of my images like this, save this. And also I want to save this not to my PDG directory, but maybe to my current hip files directory, then to the render folder, and then in a subfolder that's just the same name as my current project file like this. So this will resize each individual image to a size of 256 by 256 and save it as an EXR. And let's just execute that for now, hitting Shift and V. And this is going to run for a while. So let's speed it up a bit. And on the one hand, you can see this will take a while, but on the other hand, you can see it's only using 6 cores. So let's fix that and just cancel it by hitting Shift and D and go to the local scheduler and increase our maximum number of CPUs to use to 11 in my case, as I've got a 12-core CPU. I want to use everything but 1 core so my system remains responsive. Let's just save this and recook the ImageMagick, hitting Shift and V. And now you can see my 11 processor cores being in use here. Now that this is done, what I want to do is just check on my individual tasks and just maybe right-click on one of those tasks and go to View Task Output here, which will bring up this mPlay window and just display the resized image for that task. Just drag that out. Yay, it's an EXR and it's got an alpha channel as well. Perfect. Okay, in order to turn this into a mosaic, what I could feel tempted to do is just drop down another ImageMagick here, set this one to montage, and wire this in here. However, what this is going to do is for each individual component here, for each individual task, ImageMagick will try to montage this into an individual mosaic. And doing that for a single image basically will result in another bunch of single images. So to avoid that, what we're going to do is partition this. And partitioning means, on the one hand, dividing or reassigning tasks. So when we hit to the partitioners here, you can see we got a bunch of different ones here. And in this case, what I want to use is the wait for all. So that will unify all of these individual tasks into one single one, which will then be fed into my image mosaic, in turn resulting in a mosaic out of all of these 2401 renderings. Again, let's, on the one hand, check the ImageMagick command here and just remove the background black to preserve the alpha. Then let's again write out an EXR and also change the path to $hip /render $hip name, and maybe put this into its separate subfolder called mosaic like this. So let's just try running this and save it before. So highlighting ImageMagick node here, maybe checking the output flag and hitting Shift and V. And after a bit of cook time, you see that we're getting an error message here. So let's check what happened by right-clicking on the task and view task info. And we can see an error message stating that the file name or extension is too long. And I have no confirmation on this yet. Maybe it's still a beta issue. But what I suspect here is that Windows is throwing an error because the ImageMagick command that we're trying to execute on 2401 images is a bit too long for Windows command prompt. So let's try if we can engineer our way around this using TOPS. And instead of trying to pipe in all of those images at once into ImageMagick, let's first create some sub-mosaics out of a smaller individual selection from our frames here. So what I want to do, instead of piping all those images into a single job, then driving it into ImageMagick here, is use a different partitioner here. So I want to partition this by range for now. Let's just use that here, while this in here. And in the partition by range top here, let's check fixed size. So I want to select how many of those tasks I want to batch together into one individual new task. And in our case, when we look at the number of images I rendered out here to pipe in there, maybe let's bring up the calculator here and type in 2401 and get the square root of that. You can see it's a multiple of 49 images. So a 49 image square, basically consisting out of 7 by 7 images, will form the basis of our whole grid here. So in our partition by range, let's set a range size of 49 images. Then let's move this down here, cut this connection and pipe this in here. And in between, let's just copy this ImageMagick node here, put it in there. So we're ending up with a tree that looks like this. Basically loading in our files here, resizing them to a smaller size, partitioning them into batches of 49 images each, that's a 7 by 7 image grid, using ImageMagick to mosaic them together into 7 by 7 image grids, then merging all of these grids into one job, and again calling ImageMagick a second time to build the final big grid out of those smaller subgrids. Let's save this, keep our fingers crossed, highlight this output node here, and cook it, hitting Shift and V. Okay, now that this is done, let's zoom in here and right-click on the task here and go to View Task Output, which again opens up mPlay, and that is already looking good, so let's zoom out a bit here, and we can see here we have a pretty big grid of our different permutations of our setup. So the takeaway from this is basically you can use, on the one hand, ImageMagick to do basic or advanced image processing, especially if you know your ImageMagick commands. You can just customize this top to your liking using the ImageMagick command line here. And then on the other hand, the partitioners are maybe one of the essential tools in tops, as they allow you to assign and reassign jobs and tasks to the nodes that are downstream in your top tree.